And her feature documentary, Walk With Me, has been screened internationally and won film festival awards, including Best Documentary. She produces and directs social justice film projects with organizations such as the Child Labor Coalition and Black Alliance of Just Immigration. And she's an award-winning theater artist and teaches at Yale. It's kind of Renaissance. And she loves and supports collaborative art making and engagement, and we'll hear it in a minute. Ellie Walton, co-director and director of photography. Ms. Walton is a DC-based documentary filmmaker committed to sharing stories of everyday revolutionaries and misfits. Her award-winning documentaries include Chocolate City, Walk With Me, and Fly By Light. She is ongoing collaborator with the production company Meridian Hill Pictures, notably as cinematographer for City of Trees, and the award-winning City of Trees is an award-winning The Messy Truth with Van Jones, 2 different projects. La Monplesa is currently an AFI Film Fest selection. Okay, she's also a Fulbright Scholar and the recipient of the DC Mayor's Arts Award, highest honor given to an individual artist in Washington, D.C. Vandana Agarwal, hi, is an architect and artist who has leveraged her creativity and design capabilities toward making a difference for the greater good. For the last 20 years, she has served with NGOs, Manav Sadhna, which I think we'll hear more about that organization, Earn and Learn, Gramshri, Craft Roots, and Pariyavan Mitra for the holistic development of women, children, and artisans. The Dreams Foundation, which she's also part of, goes beyond charity into partnering with small and would-be entrepreneurs to realize their dreams into sustainable livelihoods. And I think Upsana, one of the young women in the film, might be trying to join us, and you know her from the film. Her courage is what we might call the heart of brave girls. Her deep overriding need to fulfill her dreams over the objection of others results in some of the film's most heart-wrenching moments. She's a dreamer, but also a doer, clearly, and is now the mother of 2 children, both her daughter that we saw in the film and a son. It's hard to see out there right now. Hannah, are you still here? Oh, great. Hannah Sawka, I want to reintroduce, past president of UPWIFT, president of the current UPWIFT advisory board, and a member of the board of directors. And that is our whole group. Okay, so Upsana is en route.
I have a really big mouth, so I don't know if I need a mic. Ellie, her camera, Upsana's camera needs to be turned on. I don't know if Vandana can send her.
I will do so. I will do so.
Okay, thank you. Yep, I got it. Yeah. So Vandana's going to check on Upsana. I'm just curious to, like kind of popcorn style, really loud. What are your thoughts? Just one word thoughts of what you just saw. Sobering. Mm-hmm. You can come to the mic too if you have questions.
So
but
that you can be heard by our guests on Zoom.
Mm-hmm. So sobering, what else? Moving, inspiring, courageous, thought-provoking. Gratitude. And pain. There was definitely pain. Sacrifice. Love. Admiration. Tradition. And contradictions. Compromise. Breaking barriers. Mhm. We're waiting on Upsana. If anyone has any questions, I would love for you to make your way to the mic. You know, as a producer, of this film, it's been a while since I've watched it, so I was definitely moved once again by all of the things that you felt and shared. And the one thing that it always reminds me of is the relationship between mother and daughter. And that is a very universal story. And while, we can watch, from here, someplace far away, like, we have our family traditions. We have our mothers. We might have disappointed our mothers, or we might have made them proud. And that is the universal message of this story for me, beyond thinking about how difficult or hard life is someplace else. That the difficulty, the journey, the struggle, is everywhere. And dreams are everywhere also. And that's such a gift. It's the gift of humanity. We're waiting. Any luck? Ellie, any luck? Oh, there we have Afsana in the room. We're seeing if we can get her camera.
She's in the room, but she can't get her camera on because she has low network connection.
Makes
but
sense.
She can hear us. She can hear us, and she is open to, any question answers. I just spoke to her. She's trying. If they have better network, she would join. I mean, we'll be able to see her alive also.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, come to the mic, please.
Okay. This question is for Asfana. I'm sorry if you get asked this a lot, but the movie ends on you planning to take your 12th grade exam, and I was wondering how that went.
So Vandana will translate?
Yeah, I'll translate it. Afsana, आपसे पूछ रहे हैं कि मूवी के जब खत्म होती है तो ये पूछते हैं कि कहते हैं कि आपने अपना 12th ग्रेड का एग्जाम ले रहे हैं, तो आपने दिया और क्या हुआ उसका, ये आपसे जानना चाहते हैं. आप जवाब दोगे? So I am going to do a little this thing on my phone. I will be asking the questions to Afsana and replying on the video, because clearly, she hasn't happened to hear it. I'm sorry for this.
Oh, Vandana, come on. You're half the world away, through ones and zeros. The fact that we can do this is extraordinary.
Afsana, आपसे पूछ रहे हैं कि मूवी के एंड में कह रहे थे कि 12वीं का एग्जाम आप दे रहे हो, तो कैसा हुआ आपका एग्जाम? हाँ, तो दिया आपने? दिया? क्यों नहीं हो पाया? अच्छा, पर दोगे ना आगे? Okay.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. So she is saying 100% she wants to give the exam, and she hasn't been able to do it because of the children and family issues, but she's determined. She wants to do a lot in life, and the first stepping stone is clearing her 12th grade. She hasn't yet done it, but she will do it. अफसाना, आप फोन पर है ना, मैं आपसे पूछती रहूंगी एंड जवाब देते रहेंगे, हाँ? ओके.
Yeah, next question.
Aside from the head of the school and one father, we see very few, if any, men. Did you attempt to interview men? And was there a cultural or prohibition against this or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
antagonism?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ellie will answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Um, you know, most of the men in Dolca were drivers, so they were gone most of the day. So actually, it wasn't an active decision to not to interview them. They weren't around, and actually, because of that, that actually gave us I think some of the moments that we were able to capture with the women were because in some ways they weren't there. Um, but obviously Chandubai, who was, I feel like, is such an important character in this film, and it was so important to follow him and show like how his work in trying to support the young women. And I think at one point we did try to bring in Absana's husband, and he declined. So I think it's an important question, and I think, this film, as Tanisha shared, became much more about mothers and daughters and that relationship. And I think because that's what was open to us, then we then went deep into that connection.
You can't help but wonder if
Mm-hmm.
you can't help but wonder if the fathers weren't angry or what attitude they had.
So she's asking Ellie. She's saying she can't help but wonder that the fathers and maybe them being angry or the attitudes that they might have had. And the end of her first question was, was there any kind of prohibition, to filming? Um,
There was definitely no prohibition. I think there was, I think because, let me back up. I think we wanted to show the digital letter at the beginning because that is how we entered into this community. We entered with like a backpack full of donated cameras as teachers. And I think, when we first arrived in Dolca, Aksana and Karishma kind of gave us the full tour of their community and introduced us as their teacher, as people who are coming into town, giving them these cameras. And I think that opened up a lot of trust. So we weren't this big film crew. Yes, just we grew up nearby. They were just as curious about me coming from the United States. So that also opened up doors. So I wouldn't say there was any prohibition. I think the one moment where there was some sensitivity was when Apsana, um, from her arranged marriage, and I think at that moment, Yashaswi and I did take a little pause from filming because there was a lot of fingers being pointed, at the teachers, at the school, at us, as to why she made that decision. And but then so we took like maybe a week break and then came back. So that was one moment of sensitivity, I would say. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything, Vandana Didi, you want to add about the role of men and fathers when these things
Yeah.
happen.
Right, right, right. So normally, even a individual father would never stand up. The community would gather, and if everyone takes a voice, then it becomes something which they stand up against. So fortunately, that didn't happen. You know, in all kinds of communities and villages, it's always a community reaction. It's not individual.
very interested how did you come with this idea and put it together? The creative process to this wasn't done overnight. It must have been a long process. And how did you come to all of that?
The question is, it must have been a long process. How did you come to all of that?
Yeah, I think, for me as a documentary filmmaker, these films never emerged from me sitting somewhere like boom, like, oh, that's what I want to do. It's so much more organic because I think for me, especially making verite films, so watching life unfolding, you have to be there and witness it and build that trust and relationship. So I was on a Fulbright, so I landed in Gujarat, and I wasn't sure what the story was going to be. I knew that, like I mentioned, I wanted to collaborate with these young women. I met Yashasvi, who became the co-director immediately, but I met her the first week I arrived in Gujarat. And actually, I landed in Manav Sadhana, where Vandana Didi has been serving for 20 years. And so we really arrived, as I mentioned, as teachers. Like, we were giving these young women a space to explore why they decided to go back to school, what their dreams were. And then I think from that, we realized that there was this deeper story unfolding. I think as soon as we met Apsana, I would say the first day, we gave them the exercise that they could ask each other whatever question they wanted, anything. And we didn't plant any kinds of questions. You can ask, what's your favorite, you know, what's your favorite meal? What's your favorite outfit? I mean, it was open. And the first question they asked was, do you believe in love marriage? First question. And I think from that, it just was unfolding that they were struggling with this newfound, like this dream of going back to school was pushing up against the realities of what they were promised to. Um, and I think as that edge was unfolding in these workshops, Yashasvi and I felt like we had to start capturing that as well. And so we did, and we just kept filming for over 4 years.
Vandana, can you share a little bit with the audience the culture of women versus the culture of men, how we understand it here,
Right.
like that it's
Right.
like them asking each other questions is revolutionary because that's not
Absolutely.
how communication occurs in their culture.
Right. So, to put it very simply, before I would say is asking each other questions, even asking questions to themselves and giving space to their own thoughts and ideas is revolutionary. And just giving them a safe space is what a lot of organizations, before even organizations, a lot of families have started now creating spaces which I would call safe spaces, where the children, and especially girls, can start thinking, questioning themselves, and dreaming. And even knowing the first thing is ki, what do you want to do? What are you looking for in life? I mean, then you start asking questions to others and exchanging ideas. But fortunately, I mean, some part of the credit I would say goes to the media. Now, watching a lot on media has given them a lot of courage. Education, of course, things are changing now. And now people are at least thinking and asking. The next step is taking the bold steps, which girls like Afsana took. So gradually, even knowing, I mean, it's not what Afsana did, it's the message which she gave to the whole community of girls, even if they could not openly support her, but from their hearts, each one supported her, and they felt that we can also do things. So things are now improving, and every change in society goes very, very deep. It really goes deep because it sends so many seeds in so many minds. And I a very, very small exercise where you have 10 women sitting, and like Ellie said, even which is your favorite meal, is such a empowering exercise. And once you do it once, they do it every time they meet. Then they're not talking about, look what my husband did or what my mother said to me. They're only talking, or they want to know more about themselves and each other's, because young girls are young girls everywhere. They're full of life and they want to do things. We just have to give them a little push from our side. So it's good to know that it's happening not only in villages, but in urban India, lots of places. Everywhere people have started opening up, thanks to social media, I would say, and the availability. And also, like what someone had asked earlier, a very important question about how come men are not filmed. So, women are more comfortable in spaces where there are only women. If there are any men around, they totally close up. So and normally the culture is that, though it's changing, but men go out for work in the fields, or even if they're not working, they're sitting. They don't sit in shared spaces. Women have their own spaces and men have their own spaces. So that facilitates women of opening out more.
I also want to add, Vandana, you make an
Yeah.
extraordinary point about social media and media. There is, in the Western world, we tend to, look at, India and say, well, they're not as advanced as,
Yeah.
as we are. And that's just not true. Globalization, the internet, anything that is happening here is happening everywhere.
Absolutely.
So Vandana made a beautiful point that they are exposed. That's why they can say, well, I want to be an engineer. I want to be a singer. I want to wear jeans and drive a car, because they see what is possible, because they have television and movies, and one of the most robust industries in the world is Bollywood. So it is interaction, relationship, the specificity of community and culture that drives. And one of the things that in making Brave Girls that the pandemic shorted was Absana and her mother and Krishma were going to nearby communities, and we were doing film screenings for community conversations with women. It was an active part of the process of making the film. And what's extraordinary about Ellie, worked on many projects with her, and the process of making a film with community is the unfolding. And it does take a long time. Nobody makes money in documentary. Michael Moore's wife funds his films. You don't make money in documentary because it takes, what is this, like year 10? Like we're now still showing the film, talking about the film, spreading the message. Because still, as Reese showed us, there is millions and millions and millions of girls not able to be educated, still today. All right, off my little soapbox.
I have a question. There are two words well, there's a scene of a mosque. A girl says, "I'm going to the mosque," and then we hear the word, "Girls of our caste don't do this," at one point. So we have notions of religion, Hindu and Muslim realities, and constraints that might be differential within those religious traditions. And then this kind of caste question of like a people of our social position have to behave a certain way. So you didn't really expand much on either explicitly in the film on the notions of caste or faith and religions, but maybe you want to speak about how this problem expresses itself differentially in various caste and economic positions in various parts of India, rural and urban, and the issue of religious differentials.
Thank you. That's a big one. Who wants to take it?
I think Vandana Didi, you want to take? Yeah, I think.
You start.
Yeah.
So, one question which even came to my mind, which I want to share, is like when we saw the dreams of the girls in the movie, and if you think that they really wanted to pursue their dreams, why did they have children so early? I mean, they could have delayed it and then done their education. So that was a result of their upbringing, you know. They let their caste and their religion dictate it. So there are certain things which the religion or the system enforces on them. It is inbuilt in their DNA because they have grown that way. And what is I find very beautiful in the Muslim community and caste is whether I'm not questioning whether what they say or do is right or wrong, but they do it with a lot of faith and they have very strong beliefs in it. And it gives them a lot of sense of security and it also gives them a lot of peace. Now, the other question is whether their beliefs are right or wrong, which everyone has a different point of view. And it is same. I mean, their system of their strong beliefs, their values, everything is the same, whether it's in urban India or in rural India. And every community, in fact, in rural India, I would say the tolerance is a little higher in between communities. You know, a Muslim or a Hindu community, they understand more. And it depends actually on the religious leader of a particular area, what kind of culture you propagate and what you try to instill in the whole community. And people really, really follow what the religious leader says without questioning. I mean, if the leader is saying this is right or this is wrong, let's do this, they don't question it at all. I mean, they treat it as the word of God. I mean, this is a very long discussion. I have just briefly answered it.
And I will just say that as a filmmaker, why we didn't go into that distinction is because actually we were exploring more the tradition of arranged marriage, love marriage, their dreams. And I think that transcended Muslim, Hindu, caste. So I think that's there's a lot of intersectionality and there's ways that we decided that this is the culture of this space, which is active. You know, they are recreating that tradition and culture daily, but that crossed over Hindu, Muslim, and also the caste system, which also has differences depending on Hindu or Muslim.
Yeah, I have a question. The film depicts really well just how high the stakes were for these girls to make the brave choice to essentially stand up to their parents and buck that tradition of the chosen marriage. At the time that they make that choice, it just seems like that's sort of the end for them. They're just absolutely ruined. However, I'm wondering if now, as time has gone by, you know, we saw that, you know, the one girl was able to come back after 3 years.
Karishma,
and that her mother was very accepting of her. And I'm wondering what the rest of the community, do you know anything about how things have evolved for them within that community? Like, has the community sort of taken this hit and been like, wow, okay, girls are not necessarily going to just marry who we tell them to, and has the community absorbed that? Because it really feels in a way like it's like an evolutionary shift. It seems like a small thing, but it's a very
calling up Afsana to ask her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and while
that's
she's going, I can just share a little bit that that Apsana also did. Her and her mom have reunited, and her mom is back in her life. Um, you
Afsana?
know, what was oftentimes it's not the father, but brothers can be even more the ones upholding some of the rules. And I think it was her brother that finally allowed to her mom's house. And I know that Karishma, I spoke to Afsana yesterday, and Karishma was back in Dolka with her mom, but she still lives in Ahmedabad, which is about 45 minutes away, the bigger city. But in terms of the question around the
and
community, I
well, and
think, but
Samira and Samira, we've lost touch with her because she did get married and she moved to Ahmedabad, the big city, and her new family, her husband's family, didn't want her to be filmed anymore.
yeah.
Say that again. Well, I mean, singing is cultural. You know, it's a part of it's a part of celebratory practice. But I actually, to throw a leap, it's more about shyness. You've noticed in the film, the giggling and the turning away. It's the shyness. It's an aspect of culture. You know, they'll say something and then immediately. But that's when Vandana said like it's in their DNA, right? It's something, it's encoded. We have things also encoded from our culture that we might not readily recognize.
I was wondering about Krishna. How did she meet the young man on the motorcycle that she went off with if they led such kind of sheltered and enclosed lives, staying home all the time?
Well, isn't that an assumption that they have sheltered and closed lives? They have phones. They have friends. They have friends that have brothers and cousins.
And actually, they would even say that sometimes they would choose to wear, would cover, because that gave them more freedom walking out in public. So even that is sometimes an assumption that, oh, they're covered. But actually, for them, sometimes it's this freedom, which is just, and I think also for Karishma, she sometimes wore it, sometimes didn't, and would walk freely around her neighborhood and knew everyone. Um, so there was definitely a lot of housework and a lot of restrictions in terms of being at home, but they definitely also found ways to go out. And I think going to school was this also path out of the house, which opened up some space for them to connect with folks. But I'm curious to hear what Afsana shared.
So Afsana said that just being out of the four walls of the home, and even before doing breaking off her marriage, just the fact that she could walk out, be part of a film, and be working and doing other things, going to school was so empowering, and it sent such a powerful message to the community. And both initially people were skeptical and they cut off all connections with them, but she said things are 100% back to normal, and people are not even scared of the influence they'll have on their girls. They are happy. I mean, from their hearts, they are happy that she has walked out of her four walls, and also respecting them for it. And I think, Ellie, what she was sharing is not only the bold step she made, even the making of the film has been very, very powerful in this journey of theirs. It has given them a lot of respect and acceptance more than anything. And it has also because the small acceptance by the community and other girls, because they are called everywhere and they're leading a normal life now, has made them more determined to fulfill their dreams. She says, come what may, I will, you know, study further and I will do a job.
Vandana, isn't it a bit of fight between like economic realities? Like here in the United States, right? Like the two household income in order to, make ends meet,
Yeah.
whereas culturally that's not so much a way of life in certain areas. Isn't that a part of the struggle too? Like just that
Of course,
concept?
of course, it is a constant struggle. See, economic reality is, I mean, they're not achieving their dreams. Whatever they want to do is because of the economic reality. But now, families are working on the concept that both men and women will chip in. It's not the men who would uh, earn and the women who would run the house. Also, if it may be a very unnecessary expense or it's something a woman wants to do, unless she earns it on her own, there is no way she can do it. So for that to live life and enjoy life and be happy with the smaller things, she has to earn. So the woman is more empowered that I want to earn and have my own money, where I don't have to ask, even if a family collectively makes the decision, okay, this is how I will spend and this is how I will spend. But if the man doesn't agree to it, then the woman can't make it. But if she has her own money, she doesn't need to ask anyone. So I'll tell you a simple example that when we fund livelihood initiatives in the grassroots level, to explain this point further. So maybe if we are helping a farmer do something, but we give the funds in the name of the woman in her bank account. So she's not connected to the initiative. She's not running it. Her husband is running it. But just having her own bank account and her being able to finance her husband through another organization empowers her to a different level.
So, for example, we do give funds to Amsana when she appears, and so the appearance fee that's coming to me is going to
Yeah.
her.
Okay. Right.
For that reason.
Yes.
I have a question that goes back a little bit to what we were talking about before the economic question. I think that sometimes I'm going to speak just for myself, but in trying to contemplate a cultural difference, maybe I have a tendency to think that another culture is just a straight line from young girl or very small girl up to adulthood. But thinking about maybe my own upbringing or girls in this country, often women talk about that they were very out and strong until about the age of 12, and then just started shrinking down a bit until by the time they're 18, maybe they don't feel like they were the same strong girl that they once were. And I was wondering if there's an element within the culture or of Gujarat. I don't know if I could talk about all of India, but in the area you were in, that has the same kind of effect where they were going to school and then they stop, and then there's that point where they would like to maybe get that back, or that don't feel that one line from one thing to another.
Yeah, to answer that question, what happens is, I mean, the biggest deterrent for the women or the girls, young girls here, is not lack of education or lack of financial stability or anything. The most important thing with the girls start doing is they start chipping in the housework and they start looking after the younger siblings. So as they grow up and they are, say, from around 10 years old, they shoulder the household's responsibility. and which is a very, very large percentage of unrecognized, unpaid, and not even recorded kind of a work. So, and that is the time when they get so empowered because they are suddenly cooking for the family, looking after the siblings. So, in fact, from inside, they get much more confidence. Of course, their education takes a backseat. Only if they have the bandwidth or the family has the bandwidth and the mother can handle the younger siblings and also the housework, can the girl go to school. It is for no other reason. And if, but that is the time when they really want to go to school. So they are very, very quick. They finish all the work and they run if they get the opportunity. And if you speak to any mother, any mother from any community across the country, and you ask her, what is your dream? She will say, I have been in my four walls, I have served my family all my life, and I haven't had a dream. My dream is not to make my girl do this. I want my girl to go out and live her life. I want her to be very educated. I want her to work. So that is common to every mom. So that is what is going to make a big change because they're the biggest supporters of these girls where they let them move out. I mean, this is one question which I have seen in every community, every community. I'm not educated, I can't read and write, but I'm going to make sure that my daughter does. Yeah. Which I would say is even true. It may not be at such a basic level, but if you ask a mom anywhere in the world also, her dream is to give joy and happiness to her children. So let them achieve their dreams. Let them be supportive of it. I think it's common to all motherhood. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. And I even think that probably I'm not that alone in my generation, which is not the you know, today's, but my grandmother was probably illiterate, came from Eastern Europe, wanted more for her children, and my mother was not able to go to college but did work, you know, and got a profession.
I want to thank you, Pam, for having this opportunity to see the film in a theater as we kind of go through these changing times, and thank everybody for having interest and being here. It's good to see you, Ellie, Vandana, and Apsana, and thank the Rosendale Theater. Carrie, thank you so much.
Yes. From the Rosendale Theater, we really want to thank you all, Ellie, Vandana, Afsana. Thank you very much for the work and for being here with us tonight, or in your case, it might be morning. But anyway, and I don't know if we can put a camera into who's left in the room, so in the Zoom, so you can see it. Not exactly, or from your camera? No? You'll see. Okay, well, it's been a lovely night, and thank you very, very, very much. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Tanisha. Thank you all for your questions, for holding this space. Just an honor to be here. Thank you, Vandana Didi, for being here too.
So I think Justin or Carrie will close the Zoom, but I'm going to say good night. Or